This episode of UDSP is brought to you by Warby Parker. For free 3-day shipping, just head on over to warbyparker.com/gamebreaker. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to UDSP, Unicorn Duck Shut Up Puppets. It's episode 35 for what is it, February 10th, 2014. We got lots of crafting stuff to talk about today. Stats. I missed the charts, but I'm back for stats. And we're going to tell you how all you can find WildStar on Amazon. Stay tuned for that, all that more. But first, Mr. Farhan Siddiqui, creator of charts.
And darts.
And charts. I see you got scolded last week for not making a pie chart from Mark, and then you're like, it doesn't even work as a pie chart, man.
I want a scatter diagram next time.
Oh, yeah,
we'll get it done. We'll get it done.
Joining us as well from Guild Dumber, Mark Taylor. How are you, sir?
Hey, and I just have to say that right now, it's looking really one-sided with the Dominion against the Exiles, because if you look at who's in here, we've got 2 members of Guild Dumber, and we got one of the members of our alliance, the Drunken Eldon.
Best name ever.
That new name, that new voice in the background there. Don Blank Space, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Representing. All right, so let's
fans in the chat room.
You got a couple fans. You got the chalice.
And what guild are you repping there?
I come from Subterfuge Gaming. I'm the general manager. I kind of just lead the boat where it needs to go. So one of our flagship and pilot programs was for WildStar, and we've kind of branched off from there. Have the whole community thing, everything from your general gamers down to the hardcore game testers who will sit and do QA stuff for free. So a little bit about
Good to have you on the show. Good to have you on the show. All right, let's jump into it. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. MMORPG.com this week. Talked to Carbine's Philip Chan about crafting. Hello? Who's there? It was a really good interview. It's really worth checking out. Go over to MMORPG.com. Definitely check it out. We pulled out a few of the interesting bits to talk about here on the show. First of all, though, how awesome, for people who haven't seen it, but how awesome is circuit board crafting?
Pretty awesome.
Are you excited?
Not quite in the glory that it was when I was making web apps about it back in the day, but it's still cool. It's awesome. So yeah, we love the customization it gives to crafters, allowing us to choose whatever stats we want to actually bring in, and it gives a lot of flexibility because one of the things I'm doing when I'm playing WildStar when I'm questing is I like to abandon quest lines mid quest line because I'm like I'm tired of this. I'm going to move on to something else, or I'm going to do some PvP or whatever. So crafting has been amazing to just actually still have optimal gear while I'm questing and not feel like I'm tied down to the quest chains.
So every item. Go ahead.
I was just going to say they just actually upgraded the whole UI, so it's like it's really pretty now. Before it was kind of rough, and now they've made it wicked nice. So I'm not sure if they've actually put a lot of those out. You'd have to catch them probably live on a stream, but they just upgraded them, so they got a nice polish pass with the last beta patch that went out. So,
and that seems to be something that they're really working on a lot right now is UI stuff, the UI UX stuff, which is it needs it a lot of different ways, but it's getting there. So every item in game, even the ones that aren't crafted, can have stats customized, which is kind of crazy. How does the new overcharge mechanic work?
So the overcharge mechanic is actually a little bit separate because that is something that is specific to crafting only, not for the customization that you can do. You can do some customization stats to the actual thing. That's more like the rune crafting kind of thing. But as far as overcharge goes, what it is that like in all MMOs, whenever you have a piece of gear that has some sort of item budget to it, right? That sort of determines how many stats you should be getting on your piece of gear. What you can do with overcharging is you can say I want to do it a little bit more powerful. I want to put in a little bit more brutality or a little bit more crit or whatever. and it lets you do that. But as a crafter, you got to make that decision. And what it does is it brings us back to sort of like the older school crafting in older MMOs where you actually had that chance to fail. You had the chance to lose your materials, but it's up to you whether you want to actually take that risk. Because obviously, once you actually get into that realm where you're actually doing that, you're overcharging. Then you're getting to get gear that's actually like really really good and really powerful, like much more so than just whatever's randomly dropping. So it's worth it from that perspective, but you got that risk, and if you want to manage that risk, you can. You can say like, oh, I only want a little bit of risk, so I'm going to put a little bit of power in. For the hardcore people who just want the best of the best of the best, they're going to go all the way up to 30%. And they'll be like, damn it, I didn't make it. Oh well, I farmed for hours. I got all this material. I'm just going to keep doing it, and then they get that awesome gear.
And I just want to say that that's like the starting gear for us, the best of the best. I mean, that's just like step one. You have to get the best of the best of the best of the best of the best. If you really want to if you really want to start like reaching here.
Do you think a 30%? You think a 30% crit or 30% chance to fail? So basically, what's gonna happen? You can take your items and you can throw the right materials at those items, and you can basically change the stats to. Am I right in saying almost anything that you want? And then in worst case scenario, there's a 30% chance of fail rate to lose the materials if you go to take
it can be
risk.
Up to 30%. So you can manage your risk. It doesn't have to be a full 30%. It could be a little bit less. But what it is it's giving you some either more power or more customization. So like a schematic, maybe it's more in tune to have like a stat like brutality in it because that's like a red stat. You could still put tech into it or whatever, and that's like a color mismatch, but which means that it takes up a little bit more item budget. But you could still have like the same stats by overcharging a little bit or something like that. So what it means is that you can have a little bit of risk, but it either gives you a little bit more power or a little bit more customization or some mixture of there.
But one little hidden thing in there that I don't know if everyone's thinking about is when you increase the chance of risk or the risk factor for losing your mats and maybe even destroying the item altogether, that does a couple of indirect things. Indirectly, that makes your crafter valuable. Additionally, it gives you a reason, a direct reason, although it might be indirectly hinted, for your guild to organize in gathering mats so that you can put mats in the hands of those crafters, A, so you can afford to lose them. Yeah, and B, so that you've got more mats to work with. So if you have the whole guild or a good large group working to get mats, it might be people gathering crap that they don't necessarily even they don't even craft. They might just get the crafting skill or the trade skill just so that they can harvest the mat. But now they're part of that activity, which you can turn it, which is normally a very boring social dynamic of gathering, into like a 2-hour guild event on Thursdays. In which case, you're sitting there doing this. Wow, you're sitting there gathering. You know what I mean? And then, at the end of the day, you give them back, and then you do like a craft fest. I mean, what we've done, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but what we've done is we've done things called safaris, in which case we get the whole guild together for like 2 or 3 hours, and we just dominate areas and just rape them for their mats, and then the person who's got the largest amount of mats gets like a cash reward or something, so that they feel incentivized. But then they craft, and then all the newbies or the lowbies or the people who don't have good gear, basically get gear given out to them as part of the social dynamic. So I mean, it's little things like that that you can both increase the capability of your crafters, B, get good gear, but C, turn it into a social activity.
How do you guys see how do you see this whole new system working with players who are maybe a little less hardcore, a little less proficient, players that may how could it possibly turn into like a really sort of confusing scenario for a lot of players? Don, so you're shaking your head, no.
I'd definitely say no. For those that want to min-max, that are going to sit down and really break down the variables, you can, you'll have the technologist who's making your cores. They're the higher quality cores, so you're minimizing your risk, so you're able to hit that 30%, have the bigger numbers just from the start. But if you're looking just to make that belt that, you couldn't get from challenges or you couldn't get from a dungeon or something like that, you're going to be able to put that into your gear set. So while it's accessible by everybody, but for those that are hardcore, you're going to be able to really dig into it if you want to.
I think one thing that people might be overlooking when they think about the fact that, oh, you have this chance of losing your materials, that's that's terrible. That was really, really bad when it was always when you're crafting. You never had the chance to mitigate your risk. You never had a chance to control it in any way. And in this case, it actually, it makes some sense, because if you think about gear, and especially for people who are min-maxing and trying to get the most out of their gear, people pay insane percentages just to get this tiny 2 more stats on it. I'm gonna pay triple or quadruple or whatever just to get 1 or 2 more stats on my piece of gear, because you know what? I want to be optimal. I want to do everything that I possibly can. And so, yeah, okay, maybe you have a chance of losing the materials, but for the crafters that actually can get the most out of it, if you specialize and you're the kind of crafter who's really good at it, maybe you can mitigate some of that risk. You can actually have better profit margins on those items than your general crafter who's just sort of I'm going to stick the stuff in the thing and click the button and try to get it done. So, it actually lets crafters shine, because they can actually get better profit margins on those items. They can actually do it because there will be a market for those better items. That's not up for question.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. So obviously, Carbine are stupid, and you can sell all of these on the auction house, I would imagine.
That's the best thing.
That's the best part. So in theory, then all 4 of us could basically have the same gear and have them statted completely different.
Yep.
In a very drastic way.
Yes.
I mean, if you were using all crafted gear, realistically, it's going to be partly crafted gear, partly from other sources. If you're, realistic about it. If you went all crafted gear, then yeah, you could have everything be completely different, even though they, look the same. And then they have the costuming and all that other kind of stuff for customization as far as appearance goes. So, yeah, I don't know how much you're going to end up using crafting compared to other sources of gear. If you get really lucky, maybe you're just going to go with all dungeon gear or something. But that crafting is in there so that you can do it. And like I was saying before, I like to just drop a quest line. I actually like that I can, I don't feel I have to do it just in case there's that item at the end of the quest line that I need because I haven't upgraded my gloves in 10 levels or something. I can just go and craft it, and I'm good. So,
one thing that is so have we seen the auction house? Yeah, can we talk about that?
Yep.
So what do you I mean, because one thing that is concerning a little bit is just the auction house itself, and especially when it comes to all this gear. I mean, we've been talking about a lot of the UI UX. I mean, what do you guys all think of the auction house in its current form, the interface, the search, the systems, all that kind of stuff? Because that could potentially be a nightmare if it's not really done well, especially with the fact that this big heavy emphasis on crafting.
I mean, I think what we have right now isn't by any means the final UI anyway, so it's hard to really know for sure exactly how good it'll be. I mean, there's I could come up with a laundry list of things that I would like to have for the auction house UI so that it could be better. Maybe I want to be able to search for plus or minus some amount of stats in some range, and then have it be able to be sorted so that I can be okay, well, I need this much tech at least on my gloves for it to be better than my current gloves. So I can put that in, but then I also want it to, be at least this much other stuff. And so some sort of customization so that you can, actually find those items if they actually exist on the auction house or whatever, rather than having to, go through and mouse over this one tooltip. Okay, no, okay, go to that one, and then keep going.
I hate to mention Diablo, but they had a really good system for looking at this stat this much, and I really feel having something like that implemented would be great, because then I have this much grid, I have this much tech, I need this much more, maybe somebody's selling something crafted. It would be great to see, but right now, and I've said this before, the auction house needs a lot of love. It's there in function, but other than that, it needs a really strong polish pass before it gets to where it needs to be for launch, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what you're saying. You need to see some of that critical information, I think, for some of those stats on crafted items, right up in your face in a really easy way to see it, or it's just going to become a nightmare if it gets overrun. So tell me, Taylor, I mean, are we hearkening back here a little bit to dare I say Star Wars Galaxies, where you're going to see because so crafters can also specialize in specific items like swords, and then through the talent points, you know, they can overcharge swords better, things like that, or have more options. So are we going to see sort of master swordsmiths or gunsmiths on like a server where you're going to have, is there the potential to have like that one person on like on a server who's just like the best of the best?
So it's my interpretation that it'll be probably the closest we've seen. The only reason why as of right now it can't get there is because they don't have the mats that I know about that are only accessible to a few people, or certain mats that only come around like 1 hour per year or something like that.
That was the big thing, yeah, the scarce ability of the mats.
So it was the limitation of the access to the mats that made a certain person able to make the best gun in the game, literally, or the best sword or whatever.
We don't see that happening here.
No, I mean the mats are available pretty much to everybody. I think what'll be the differentiator is the people that specialize. So you might have 50 folks that can make the best kind of shield or whatever. I'm just making that up, or gun or sword, versus like 2 or 3. It'll still be rare enough that it'll make them completely viable. And again, I hate to always reference it back to like a guild kind of function, but it'll make it important to be in guilds, because I just don't see anything can happen. You could be an individual person, a lone wolf who doesn't guild up and just do it by yourself. But I just can't see that being fun, and I can't see it being time effective. I think that organized groups will go out in mass and they will rape and get these mats, and it will bring them back and just hand them and throw them at the crafters so that they can craft that stuff faster, because it's all about time to value, not time to market. It's time to value. How quickly can I get on-res is in chat, right? Econ, PvP, how fast can I get these mats so that I can get my skill level up, so that I can take these other mats and now craft the sword of 1,000 truths or something. You know what I mean? Because that's what's going to be the difference. Now, for a casual or people who are just having fun and regular guilds, that's not really that important. I guess what I'm saying here is this is how more elite guilds are going to fast track, or just organized guilds are going to organize better to try to get somewhere, so they can start doing the high level dungeons, so that they can get into the raids, so that they can unlock and progress, and that's how they're going to do it. But one last thing about crafting, though, how people were complaining about may I possibly lose a 30% chance of losing all my stuff. Remember EverQuest 2, where not only could you have a 30% chance of losing your stuff, you could get killed. You could die. You could die. It was great. Talk about risk. I'm like I remember I was a woodworker, and I had myself on a macro, and I went to go grab a sandwich, and I came back and I was dead.
This wood file, and it went through my heart.
So I mean, people have got more serious things to complain about, but the awesome thing about it is it as good as Galaxies? From what I can see, no, and I just don't know if we're ever going to get there again. But it's really pretty.
It's not that kind of a game. I mean, it's not a sandbox. It is a theme park.
But the thing also, though, is it makes the crafters valuable, right? It makes being a crafter an important step, which most MMOs they've just made that specifically as a time sink, as a money sink, and it's just a mini game, and maybe every now and then they'll put something in there that really makes it worthwhile. But other than that, it could completely be ignored. In this game, being a crafter has a value, and so that's a great thing.
And one of the things that makes the WildStar's crafting a little bit more effective than some of the, or at least in terms of market and actually being able to make a profit as a crafter, is that compared to say Star Wars: Old Republic or World of Warcraft or any of the other like very theme park crafting experiences that we've seen recently, usually if you want to actually make money in those markets, you actually have to find a niche, right? You have to find like a place where there isn't as much competition, because the more competition there is, the more that cuts into your profit margins, right? And then you have to dealing with everyone else. But the thing is that with specialization, with like the kinds of overcharging mechanics and all those other kinds of things, all it does really is that it makes me as a crafter versus another crafter, we have different profit margins, than one another. So we will actually want to be crafting different gear, because I specialize in swords. Why would I be crafting resonators or whatever? Because it wouldn't make sense for me. I wouldn't be making the optimal profit margin. So what it does is it just sort of the gear is still out there, but we still have a smaller market. So it's like a way of forcing people to actually, really specialize and actually get their niche and not have as much competition because other people are incentivized to go into the other niches. And if any one, thing gets overcrowded, then, people are incentivized to go to the other one. So it's a nice economic way of spreading people out and making it so that if you actually put in the effort to get all those talent points, to do all the and it's going to take effort. It's not easy to go and get all the schematics, to get all the talent points, to get all the things, and then figure out what's actually profitable. Doing all of that is actually a decent amount of work, but once you actually do it, then you can actually stand out compared to other ones in terms of like how much money you're making.
I wanted to throw one note in here because I didn't see anything about this in the article, but I do know it from experience in the game. You may specialize in one of these, and this is current for beta, and it may change. But right now, let's say you're the master swordsmith of your server. You're actually able to switch, retain your position in that craft, and pick up another craft. This is huge. There is a cooldown, and I was playing with it the other day. You can switch back and forth a couple times, then it like locks you to 2 weeks, which I thought was a pretty stiff penalty. But it's not like other games where you lost a craft, you lost all of your progression. So let's say, you've made 3 swords of truth. They're just sitting on the auction house. You're waiting for somebody to make enough gold to pick it up. All right, I'm going to switch this out, and I'm going to level something up. I'm going to retain my status on the auction house by finding another place, and then being able to switch back and forth, even if there's a cooldown, makes it much more of a game for those like Onres, who's going to sit there with the charts to try to figure out just exactly, all right, I've got 5 swords of truth. Those should cost about this much. Everyone else is going to make this much gold. Now it's time to switch over here. Maybe we'll make resonators or guns or some special belt that you can't get unless you're in a raid or something.
Watching the market a lot
did want to mention
closer.
that.
Very good. Yeah, it's actually really cool. Another interesting twist here. Tell me about this. Set bonuses not being tied to armor. So it looks like it's kind of a similar way to like Guild Wars 2, right? So pick and choose your set bonus and put it on whatever armor you want, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just, it's not really like a pioneering shift. It's just some game company finally had some common sense to come up with a method that is going to allow people to continue to progress, yet look the way they want to look. Like, they don't want to look like everybody else. They don't want to, or be like, a certain sci-fi game where all the gear just look like crap. They want to figure out what it is that they want to look like, and then they want to be able to take those stats. Because at the end of the day, you want to look at your avatar, and whether you're an RPer or a closet RPer or what, you want to look at your tune and be like, that's cool, that's awesome, I like that. You know what I mean? And so
yeah, people even who aren't into
like
RP kind of still like would prefer one set of armor over another. I mean, you're sitting there staring at your character for hours on end. So
exactly.
This is more of a stats thing, though, because like they already have like the whole costuming system, so you can
right.
you can already look like a clown or like a whatever you want to look like, without any problem with that. I want a devil's advocate against this system just for a second here, just because I do like parts of it, but there's one thing that sort of worries me, and then maybe they'll be fine with it, but the thing that worries me is that I play World of Warcraft raiding quite a bit, and one of the things that was really nice when you went from one tier to another is like you had these interesting set bonuses that would somehow affect your rotation or would affect the way that you play the game itself. And one of the my concerns is that how does that evolve into WildStar system? So if you can pick your rune set, does that mean that I'm just gonna if I'm like a Stalker DPS, am I always gonna pick the same rune set every time for my gear? Because that's the Stalker DPS rune set, even if they do, then does that mean that there's like some like inflation where like, okay, they want to make a new tier set, but everyone's still using the old one, so then it has to become more powerful, which means the old one's obsolete. And so, I mean, it was fine when it was tied to the gear because you wanted the more powerful gear anyway, so you were forced to move to the new set bonuses or whatever because you wanted the more powerful gear. That outweighed the fact that the set bonuses might be good, and there were like some breakpoints. You're like, you only want to switch when you can go from this many set bonuses to that set bonus, and that was interesting, but still, it was, valid. And so, that's one concern I have with the current system in WildStar.
What do you guys think of that? Is it gonna work?
I have a big speculation on this one, and it's the way, and we're going to talk about stats in a little bit, but the way that they have stats is there's that primary and secondary. Is it potentially that runes are there to pick up that third, that there to be that filler in between, like, okay, well, I've got my damage and I've got, my crit, but now I need a little two-hit, That's my biggest speculation is they're trying to balance that all in with both the gear that you're wearing and then the runes that you put on, and make it more than just, okay, all of this needs to be a certain way. This is how you do damage. So, speculation for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's hard to really know without knowing what the actual rune set bonuses are. I just hope that it's not like optimal for me to have 8% more brutality, and I can't use the rune set that gives me like an interesting rotation or an interesting proc or some other thing, because the stat, like, it's probably gonna sim out to be better just because stats usually do that. But,
and don't forget about the variable of the amps, right? Because they're in flux. So there goes another variable that could add, again, because it's been changing so much that we've been seeing, right? Who knows how much more that will be adding to the mix to make you more epic, right?
Now, if anybody's wondering how rating is tying into all this, basically, according to the interview, everything is tradable. Everything is tradable. So that's kind of crazy. I mean, that means that you take raid gear, give your crafters buffed up, boom, like viable endgame crafted gear achieved.
But that sounds like a good thing to me, because let's be honest. I mean, usually people complain or they get tired of raiding because the thief gets all the loot, or whether he rolled on it or not, or like, remember Tor, it was nothing but commando loot or bounty hunter loot is all that ever dropped. So it's, some people are going to get a full suit of gear like in 3 days, and some people are going to suck for 6 months trying to get stuff with the random system. So at least if they do something like this, people can kind of figure it out and organize. The con to that is, now people have an idea of when they're going to probably get their full outfit before they can start looking for the next year. But I would argue that's still better, because then you at least know, okay, I can plan, and I'm making the number up 3 months, and in 3 months I'm going to have tier 1 gear. Arguably, that's better than having half your raid team with good gear and half with crap gear because they keep getting bad rolls. This way, you at least know that in 3 months we should kind of be where we need to be till we can get to the next level. That's my 2 cents.
Well, normally I'd say I dislike this when it comes to crafting stuff. I come from a raiding background in World of Warcraft, and one of the grossest things that I had to learn was weaponsmith back in doing, I think it was Vash, to get that hammer, because it was all the rage at the time.
Storm Herald.
Oh, dude, it was terrible. And I think about this now. Let's pretend you're on a server and you're behind in progression. Now the guild that's just smashing through content they've crafted all these hammers. They've crafted this item for everybody in their guild. You're now able to trade what you may have, whether it's more time, more crafting resources, whatever it may be. Those resources you can now trade to get something you may not have been able to get before. And there's definitely some really cool value to that. Normally, MMOs are like, no, you have to, there's a huge gate to get in here. But with crafting, they're kind of breaking that barrier down. Normally, I dislike that. But when it comes to making econ this crazy, tri-dimensional thing, I love it. It's really cool.
What about, what do you guys think? Does this actually sort of make it mandatory that we need some sort of kind of crafting trade interface? So people can trade and not be worried about getting all their stuff stolen, basically, by a random person on the internet.
The world of tradecraft.
The world of tradecraft.
That's been an issue.
It kind of sounds necessary in this game, doesn't it? Like, it almost, the way they're sort of setting up the
escrow?
system.
You mean like an escrow account?
Yeah, some sort of way to like hold it. I mean, it doesn't really sound too safe that, like, I mean, if you're not in a large guild and you're just going to go randomly find Joe Smith, who's the best swordsmith out there, and get him to do your smithing for you, you need some sort of system that you're not going to get ripped off, don't you?
Yeah, nice to see.
I don't know whether they do it. There's so many steps involved. Like, what if you're like, okay, I'm gonna give you my materials, but I want you to overcharge it by only 23%. And then they're like, no, he overcharged it by 24%, and it failed. Damn it! I want my mats back. I want my money.
It'd be kind of difficult, but it would be It would be interesting to have a let's say a UI where you put your materials in, you picked out how far you wanted to overcharge or no overcharge, and you both went to a crafting station, and it was like, they're going to craft this for you, you're going to pay them this much. It's a cool idea.
Sounds
more
a
than
intricate.
likely though. Yeah, it's really intricate. More than likely, you're going to find a friend, somebody that you trust, and be like, hey, here's my stuff, make me something cool, please, and give it back to me when you're done.
Or just prepared to get ripped off by a Guild Umbra, because they'll just steal their stuff.
Every time.
That's what they do.
We have really bad luck with RNG. I'm sorry.
It's really bad, really bad.
Oh, it was that 30%. Gotcha.
Oh, that's it.
It was that 30%. I'm telling you.
Well, that's seriously, think about that. That could be the excuse every time. Like, who would
It
know?
failed.
Crafters be like, it failed. Sorry, bro. What am I gonna do?
Maybe just have this like chat thing that's like, he tried to craft this and it failed, just to let everyone know around.
And then like 30 minutes later, he's on like the auction board and he sees like, somebody trying to sell those mats.
Same dude. Same. All right, I want to talk about this WildStar Echoes chart we had up here. Farhan's getting ready. It's charts. First, I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Warby Parker, brand new sponsor here to Gamebreaker TV. Super happy to have these guys on. If you guys have not checked it out, it is getting your prescription glasses online. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and most people don't want to do something like go to a website to pick out glasses, but check this out. So you go to warbyparker.com, you sign up, you make an account, and you pick out 5 pair of glasses that you like. There's tons of great frames, men's, women's, all kinds of different styles, sunglasses, regular prescription glasses, even a monocle. I really think I have to buy the monocle. Really, really cool stuff. You pick out 5 pair of glasses that you like. You put them in your shopping cart. And guess what? In like 3 days, they send you all 5 pair of glasses. Not with your prescription. They just send them to you with clear lenses in them for you to try on. It's called the Home Try-On Kit. So you can make sure they fit well. Maybe you got a game with them. So you got to see how your headset's going to feel with these things on. And, you just like how they're going to feel. Wear them around. Keep the box for as many days as you want to see how they look and feel. You pick out the pair you want. You tell them what your prescription is. Boom. They send you back prescription glasses. Now, there's 2 other really great things about this. One, frames with lenses, with all the coatings and all that stuff, start at $95. Most of them are $95. There's a few pair, like some limited ones, some nice stylish ones are a little bit more. Most of them are $95, and they're really, really made well. Second thing, another thing that's awesome about Warby Parker, for every pair of glasses that you purchase, they give a pair of glasses to someone in need. How awesome is that? They've given away 500,000 pairs of glasses already. Awesome.
That is pretty cool.
That's
It
really
is.
cool.
I love this business
Actually,
model.
I'm getting ready to get fitted for some glasses probably the next month or 2, so I'll like tape it and like send it to you so you can turn it into a commercial.
Yeah, you should totally do it and go through the. I love to. I actually want to do something where people send in pics of from Warby Parker. I mean, all you need, for most people that don't know, if you have a prescription, most of the time it should be on the inside of your arm is your lens for your prescription. All you need is that number. So you just take that number. When you pick out the glasses that you actually like, you put that number in, and boom, they send you back your glasses. And right now, we got a great deal going on with them, and they're actually going to. I should mention that they charge you nothing for this. Nothing. They take a credit card and they charge you like 95 cents just to make sure that you're not like, you're actually like a real person with a credit card. I think they even refunded me like my 95 cents. They send this to you with a return shipping receipt, so you can stick this back in the mail, not pay for shipping back to them. And then on your prescription glasses that you buy, we've got a deal going on with them, and it's 3-day shipping, absolutely free. Free 3-day shipping on your prescription glasses. All you got to do is use the URL warbyparker.com/gamebreaker. That's where you're going to want to go. Check it out. There's even some really, really cool ways. You can take a picture of yourself with your webcam and then try on all the different pairs of glasses right online to see what you're going to look like and things like that. Awesome. Love this company. Love it. Check it out. warbyparker.com/gamebreaker. I'm wearing these for the rest of the show. All right. So, WildStarEchoes.com put together a pretty slick looking chart here. What their key stats are for the different for all the class stats. So based on your extensive 1 to 15 experience, like does Does this look right to you?
Theory crafting helmet.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I mean, honestly, the primary stats aren't actually all that complicated. I mean, it's weird, and it's a really useful chart just because all the names are different from your usual, stat names. But once you actually get in the game, you're actually doing it. It's actually not that complicated to understand that. Okay, that's my DPS stat, and that's my, my crit stat or whatever. And yeah, it's usually not.
Is there room to mess around in WildStar with primary stats?
Not really primary, but when you're looking in your secondaries and your certain builds, there's a lot. Things get pretty intense really quick when you're min-maxing. I did an experiment on one of my, I think it was my 4th or 5th Stalker, on different builds that synergized critical severity rating. So the secondary, the primary, no, those are pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And you don't think there needs any, you don't need any customization there?
No, because what ends up happening is between both the LAS, your amps, and the particular way that you're going to be doing, whether it's PV or PvP, you're going to be trying to build your stats a specific way. So you're either going for a burst setup or a sustained setup or whatever it may be. So those secondary stats get switched around based on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I would say that there is a little bit of room for flexibility if you're going with something like a hybrid build, just because something like, like you're looking at Medic right now, Moxie's in there for their secondary stat, that's their crit stat. If you are trying to balance like both damage and healing, then it's a little bit difficult to say no, go for tech or whatever, because that's only going to help your damage. So having a little bit more Moxie and a little bit less of the primary stats might be viable there, because then the crit's going to help both the damage and the healing, whereas tech is only going to help the damage and insight's only going to help the healing.
How good are the tutorial how good are the tooltips and the tutorials at the moment? Because I mean, I'm asking is because like to a new player, I think some of there's some strange words going on here that people wouldn't know what they actually pertain to.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best new player experience. Just going straight in and getting in. Like, my wife is not a big gamer at all, but I was, if someone just tells you like, okay, go for this, that, like she's playing an Esper, so I'm like, go for Moxie, and then she can manage that much, and it generally goes pretty well. Because
can you break this down for me? Like, where's my like straight up fantasy game nomenclature here? Like, where's my strength and wisdom?
Well, like charisma, damn it.
Yeah, really. Can we just what are these?
They actually, back in May, I think it was like May 15th, they switched their names as part of the closed beta 2 announcement.
D.
Yeah, well, it's kind of what I do.
Back in my day.
David Bass put out that they had switched the names. They did originally go by Strength, Dex, Tech, Magic, Wisdom, and Stamina. As part of changing it to more of a WildStar flair, they changed them to what you see now. So they did originally have those names that I get that. That's my strength. It's no longer your strength now. So
I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know. Like, does this really add anything to the game? Like, seriously,
it does though, because
it's not very intuitive. I mean, most experienced MMO players or D&D players or RPG players just understand certain things about how these games are played. I don't know. I don't see the value in changing this.
It does add though, because it does add to it though, because like, so what used to be strength is now called brutality, right? But it doesn't really make that much sense, if you're playing that. Okay, why as a Esper, why do I want any strength at all? Like I'm not hitting anyone in the face with my anything. Like, they just, the side blade sits on their back the whole time. They're not doing anything with it. So brutality makes a little bit of sense, because it's giving them a little bit of crit severity, so their crits actually do a little bit more damage, and they're getting a little bit of hit out of it. So I mean, because those stats were being used on every class, they have some benefit for everyone. Going away from the archetypal names made some sense, and then yeah, it just makes that a little bit more straightforward. Because in any other game, if you're a mage and you're going with strength gear, you're an idiot. So
I felt that was part of the shift that they made when they decided that we're not going to call it End Game. It's going to be Elder Game.
Elder
They know that this is a new IP, and they want people to be very strongly attached to the brand. If you go with those things that you're familiar with, you think of another brand. It's weaker. You're watering it down, and they're like, you know what? If, we're going to have the Wabos, we're going to have the balls to change these up and make them our own. So instead of going with strength and dex, we're going to call them brutality and finesse. And you may not know them off the start, but you will learn them as you play. We mentioned a little bit, the 2 tips and the tutorials aren't really there yet, but you will they will be ingrained. You will understand that as you play that, oh, hey, I want to do this much more damage. I should probably pick that.
I mean, so you don't have that familiarity that you would have had if they had this strength still, right? But once you get into the game, you're actually doing it. Then it's pretty quick to be like, okay, I am playing an Esper. I want Moxie, and that's not that big of a deal. That once you get that into your head, honestly, the number one thing in terms of
tell me about how the DPS spell singer. I mean, it's like a weird guns meets magic hybrid that uses finesse and then Moxie and brutality. But DPS engineer with guns and explosions uses the same DPS stats. So is the spell slinger magic just for special effects? What?
So yes, and mostly yes, and a little bit of no, because yes, in terms of stats, okay, the graphic is just a graphic, right? A little bit of no. The little bit of no is that okay, there is this concept of physical tech and magic resistance, and so the fact that a spell slinger does magic damage and an engineer does tech damage is a little bit of that breaking point where okay, it is a little bit of a difference between the spell slinger and the engineer, but otherwise it's mostly just a graphical thing that it looks like fire versus it looks like electricity.
So if I wanted to simplify this, could I just say that brutality is for melee weapons, DPS and finesse are for guns, and then medic and esper just fuck everything up?
Can I add one thing to that? Gary? And I'm completely making this up, and I'm completely reaching here because I do not have any empirical evidence to support this claim. But here's the net result of this. Your confusion to this is the same exact thing I have every single time I group up with Farhan, because I'm like, what am I doing? What stat do I need? What am I? Is that what I? Okay, left click, right click, 1, 2, 3, left click, 1. Because I got limited time, so I'm in, I'm out, and then I gotta go, chase kids and give spankings. But the great thing that the confusion, if you will, over the stats, the name of these stats, gives is it directly, completely indirectly planned, but directly beneficial to all of the fan sites. This gives the fan sites something to do.
There you go.
Now you need the guide.
This gives it now. Wait a minute. I don't understand this crap. Hold on. Subterfuge gaming. Here goes my know-how how I can do this. Here we go and check out what Airwolf is saying about this, and what is Zap Robo saying about that, and what is Econ PvP saying about that.
So that's why they did it, Mark. They did it because they were thinking about the fan sites. They said, fan sites, here's a bone. You all go out and explain everything because no one understands it. Don, he's like, no.
It's
not the plan. It's not the plan. It's the net result. So it's a benefit that any enterprising fan site would jump right on, and now they can do it. It's because what I'm going to do is when I log in, when a game goes live or liver, I'll just go to one of these fan sites and be like, ooh,
all right,
cheat sheet.
Mark, do you want the knowledge bomb? Do you want me to? Long time ago, before they gave out all the rest of the reveals, sitting down talking about stuff. If you're going to look at the chart again, your Esper, Medic, and Spellslinger, they have primary stats. Insight does healing. What is tanking? They're all three are tech. This is an econ and class-based decision. Brutality gets balanced between a Stalker and a Warrior because they're melee. Engineer and Spellslinger. Engineer you can say is medium range or more. Same for the Spellslinger. Moxie needed to be balanced somewhere. And then we have tech for the Medic. This was, as I said, the class guys and the econ guys sat down and said, how are we going to itemize gear at endgame? How are we going to make this so that it works? Healing and tanking was easy. Insight and tech across the board. And then they took the last variables they wanted to put on there and they said, all right, melee is getting brute. The ranged are going to get some finesse on both of them, Spellslinger, Engineer. As for a medic, the last two that are left over, Moxie and Tech, and then they can start balancing the endgame gear and drops based around stuff like this. And I don't know if that's exactly the full design, but looking at it, that's what we realized when we were still missing those last two classes.
And thus I rest my case.
I don't want a devil's advocate just in here, just because I feel like someone's talking numbers, and I just want to be like,
the defense rests.
I'm with you, Mark. Mark, I'm with you. I get it. There's a 15 to 20 minute video Don can make right now with a 3,000 word article to go along with it, with charts and graphs by Farhan Siddiqui. They're teaming up. Farhan, you had something you wanted to jump in?
Yeah. I was just gonna say that that all sounds like it's like this wonderful curated universe of stats and everything is fine and dandy, but they still got that dang thing with the Esper and Spellslinger healers. Like, okay, so like, Esper healer is like is going with insight and finesse, I think, and that is the damage stat and the healing stat for the Spellslinger. So then it's like, okay, so the Spellslinger just sort of get messed up on that because they can't have like the nice itemization sharing there because of one of them is using the Esper is using Moxie as a damage stat, whereas that is a useful stat for both damage and healing for the Spellslinger. So I mean, there's some wrinkles in there that maybe they'll get around to fixing and doing stuff.
Hey Gary, can we make this an auxiliary cast of Buildcast and just have like maybe
you want to bring back
5-minute...
Buildcast just for this? It's basically turned into that. This show is turned into.
Can we just have maybe out of the hour-long show, maybe like a
Stats
10-minute
cast,
Buildcast, Statcast?
We could break the show into 2 parts. We could do 30 minutes of chat that you and I understand and completely could talk and drink beer, and then we could have a half hour of Don and Farhan that just pass back forth game design and stats, and we could just sit back and.
I had to break up my emergency beer.
That's what it was. I'm good with that. All right, let's talk about so last week we talked about customization. This week someone on Reddit by the name of February Frost Gamer brought up a pretty interesting suggestion. What do you guys think of this? What about customizable spell effects? What do you think of that?
Man.
No.
Yeah. I got bigger fish to fry, and
don't care.
The amount of time that they would spend to develop that, I'd rather them build some more content.
You don't even think customization, like colors, things like that, like just cosmetic? Don't even care? Don't care.
Nope.
Next.
If I had an RPer here, he would care.
I actually sort of like the idea of the
Larry Everett is not on this show.
I mean, like the whole I get to choose whichever one I want. I don't really care about that as much, but I like the idea of the major tiers having a slight visual difference, so that when I'm fighting people, then I just know just from visually seeing it. Oh, okay, he's at tier 4. Oh, he's at tier 8 of that ability, and that's just like a little bit of information that I think that would not be unvaluable. But I mean, whatever. It's not a huge deal.
People are gonna hate me for saying this. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as a huge PvPer, I don't want any customization. I want my bird to look like your bird, even though my bird's tiered up, and I'm smacking you in the face, and you're like, I just got hit for like 15K. Where did that come from?
How did that happen?
Realistically,
look at the rainbow bird. Oh, he hit me in the face. Like, no.
Realistically, as a modder, I'm gonna just have a thing that's like, oh, he did one bird that was at tier 8. I have little 8 over your head or next to an M, and like I just know, okay, he's damaged. Done.
Okay, then get your coat on, son. But other than I don't want to get my hand tipped.
Get your coat on.
Get your coat on, son. Why would I want to tip my hand? Hold on, I've got the purple burst of 1,000 truths. Wait,
but then at that point, doesn't it make sense for it to be like a big flamey bird or something?
To pwn me.
Nope.
People are gonna hate. I'm gonna say this. People are gonna hate me for this, but you know what? This could really work. Microtransactions.
Hell
Stop it.
Sorry.
1.8 cred.
That's a perfect thing for a microtransaction, because again, an RPer would pay the money for that to look different or whatever. That's a perfect example for a microtransaction. Because then through the microtransaction you pay for it. Because remember, all these little things that you're asking for, the game owners got to figure out, where the money's going. So what are they going to put more development effort into new content, or are they going to put development effort into a widget that doesn't really impact the game other than for someone who wants purple versus pink or whatever?
Listen, you want to talk microtransactions, put it where it belongs. It needs to be in housing. People are going to sit in their houses, and they are going to want to just have all sorts of cool stuff. Microtransactions for PvP is a silly idea. No offense, Gary. But give those people that want to sit in their house, they want to have all sorts of cool plugs and things like that. You say, hey, $5 and you can have this really cool plug that allows you to do this. That's where you're talking about money coming flying in really quick. I don't even like microtransactions.
I think housing obviously is going to be better than that, but I think just the fact that people pay for like League of Legends skins and stuff means that people are willing to do cosmetic customization.
Yeah, I mean, looking different in PvP, that's not buying anything, right? You're not buying playing.
I'm not talking about buying power. No, I'm not talking about buying power.
Yeah, you're not buying power in that case. That's just social. I have a purple boa instead of a pink boa.
Of course you do.
PvPers don't want to pay for that. PvPers want to earn it. They don't want to pay for it. People that do housing or others, like a new mount or something like that, people are willing to pay for that sort of stuff. Not for, your PvP gear.
Of course, as convenient as Carbine is, they're going to have a big reveal tomorrow, the day after we record this. So we'll have to cover that next week. Last week we were 99% sure it was going to be about adventures. Here's what the poster says. It says who's ready for an adventure? They changed choose well and be rewarded.
Da da da. What's the squirrel? Cue the squirrel.
Yeah, I don't have them. Kind of.
There was another one tweeted out today, like another poster. It's like, and they say adventure awaits. Fate.
Oh yeah.
Like,
so.
It's adventures.
It's adventures.
Yeah.
So
what do you guys think? How do you think adventures are going to work? Do you guys have any ideas or?
I have some. Adventures are your instant 5-man content.
No, we don't know.
I'm telling you what they've released. You might be able to do an adventure in a veteran mode. There's a lot about pathfinding and decision making. They've said that it could take up to 2 hours to do, and within the balance of PvE content, for those of you who need to know, there's ship hands, adventures, dungeons, veteran dungeons, 20-man, and then 40-man. So they're kind of at the lower end of the scale. But they've made it sound like it's not going to be a dungeon where you're going to be part of a story to get some, gear. It's more of there's going to be something cool that you're going to progress through, and it's going to take some time. It's not going to be something you just smash right through. 2 hours is a good chunk to be doing something in a game for who knows what reward. So,
well, we will find out tomorrow. So we'll see what it is. All right, last time I just thought this was pretty funny. Hang on, I'm just going to do this. Let's see. I'm going to go to Amazon. I've been waiting for this thing to drop, and I think it's here. Oh, what?
I can't even see.
Whoa, what? What did you invite me to? Goodness.
Well, that's awkward. Oh, you're looking at the second one. I was looking at the top one, first of all. I typed in WildStar. Guess what came up? Elder Scrolls Online. And what is this? I don't even know. I can look inside, though. Hang on.
www.booty.com.
It's only $1.99. I'm going to buy from Mark.
WildStar Nicole.
There you go.
All right.
Don Blank Space. Follow him on Twitter at Real Blank Space. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Chalice is up. That's an awesome chalice, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. It was fun.
Mr. Mark Taylor. Follow him on Twitter at Guild Umbra. And right here on UDSP every single week. Mr. Fahan Siddiqui, follow him on Twitter, Unindel, UNINDEL. No charts, no graphs. What is it? You knew I was coming back this week? You just didn't bring any, no gifts?
Well, we had the WildStar Echo charts.
Yeah, but that wasn't yours. That wasn't yours. I wanted your Excel charts. Bring it back. All right. Follow me on Twitter, Gary Gannon. Follow Gamebreaker TV, Gamebreaker TV, and go over to Facebook.com/Gamebreaker TV. We do the show live on Mondays at 3. So we'll be back next week with more to talk about. Hopefully lots of information on adventures. We shall see. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.